That's right. Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And BlueDragonFive.
And welcome to the Main Street Cinema, the show where we discuss the finer points in filmmaking. And tonight we are going to be reaching into the grab bag of our good friends at Just Giggle It, the good folks behind the hit web series Harley Quinn and the Joker versus the Real World. Now, folks, before Harley and Joker, Joshua Thompson and company, or I'm sorry,
Thomas.
Thomas. I know, Joshua Thomas, Joshua Thomas and company. They had a whole running line of skits under the Just Giggle It banner, which they still release from time to time in the middle of working on Harley and Joker and the live streams and stuff like that. But being as though Harley and Joker is on a bit of a hiatus right now, we felt that we would look into some of the most memorable skits from their past, some of the most memorable videos in their archives. So tonight we're going to be taking a look at one of the most popular ones and then also one of the creator favorites. So we're going to start with Pretty Flowers, which is a personal favorite of Joshua Thomas's. And then we're going to be going into what I assume is one of their more popular videos outside of the Harley and Joker stuff, which is live action Pokemon. I'm Ash Ketchum from Pallet Town. Ha 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 ha. Yes. So kind of a nice, and that's the way we're gonna kind of try and do these Just Giggle It episodes. Is we're gonna kind of have a blend of creator favorites and also stuff that we really think the fans would like hearing about. So, Dragon, do you have a little bit of background on our compatriots at Just Giggle It?
Well, I mean, for the episode specifically, not so much. But I mean, just this is the inaugural episode. Might as well just kind of refresh some people on kind of some Just Giggle It history. Basically, we're going to kind of do an adventure here and kind of go through kind of what gets us to a show that Tiki and I have been very passionate with our love about, with the Harley Quinn Joker versus the Real World. We're doing a deep dive into the history of Just Giggle, kind of the empire that was built on the empire without we do not have Harley Quinn the Joker versus the Real World. So it all started. And by the way, folks, anyone's interested, and again, I highly recommend this. There's a very informative brief too, because me and Tika, we love our good in-depth documentaries. 15 minutes, pretty dense. 15 minutes. We get a lot of interesting little tidbits. To quote the great Tom Hanks, Walt Disney from Saving Mr. Banks, some tidbits. Just Giggle started at Epcot. Yes. Interestingly, Just Giggle kind of started like some of the greats that Tegan and I worshipped over the years, like the Animaniacs crew that worked on, of course, went on to work on Freakazoid for the most part. They started in an improv class, UCB, it's the Upright Citizens Brigade improv class. And like in Animaniacs, basically those guys started in the Acme Comedy Center. It's like a lot of improving comedians who kind of work together, and they really, Sherry Stoner's husband kind of ran that group. And basically, they have kind of a similar history going on. That's where all these guys were in improv class together, and they really hit it off, and they really kind of banded together. And famous kind of the unsung founder of Just one of the unsung founders of Just Giggle. It's a trio, but I mean, let's face it, what we have stuck around, what we see constantly is Joshua Thomas and Piper Hinson. Apparently, there was a girl by the name of Yuka who, in a drunken moment of Genesis, and that's how they phrase it. I'm not just trying to cast aspersions on poor Yuka or anything, but Yuka, in a drunken kind of moment of Genesis, just kind of had like, wait a minute, why don't we do something? Let's get some cameras and equipment and stuff, and we have all that, we have access to it. Let's do some videos, guys. Let's do some skits. Let's do some comedy. And Just Giggle It was born from that moment on, and kind of Yuka kind of dropped out of the frame for a while again, kind of getting the band together, kind of like saying, hey, let's, it's kind of the old Mickey Rooney approach. Hey, we got a barn. Let's get some lights. Let's get some stands. Let's put on a show. That's kind of the mentality that kind of got us to Just Giggle It. Today, they assemble a crew of a lot of familiar faces that we're probably going to be kind of shouting out and kind of like, oh, there's that guy. He's really good throughout the whole process here. So it's a good kind of opening tidbit for kind of our adventure into Just Giggle It. So we're starting with Pretty Flowers, which is number 17 of the Just Giggle It line. So essentially, they work like sketches, and there's another series that we're going to get to along with a series or two along with Harley Quinn and the Joker versus the Real World. But for right now, we're starting with some recommended videos. Now, Tiki and I have seen a couple of the videos. We haven't seen every single one, so a lot of this is going to be kind of a discovery process, much to our delight. So we're going to find some videos that we haven't watched before that we're going to be very hopefully delighted by, and some that we're very familiar with. Like I can't wait till we get to the Making a Murder, some of the Making a Murder sketches, which I'm very delighted for, and of course Tiki with the Pokemon sketch we'll be talking about momentarily. So we're going to start with Pretty Flowers. Came highly recommended by the great and powerful Joshua Thomas. So we're going to recap it like we do Harley Quinn and Joker versus the Real World. It is it's roughly 4 minutes, so we'll see how much how in depth we can get with that. But I believe we're going to have some good substance with.
Basically, Dragon, I feel like this podcast is going to be achieving what the channel set out to do. I have a feeling we're going to be giggling through a large portion of this.
So speaking of that, I guess we should transition into Pretty Flowers.
Okay, can I just say one thing about the title and like the catch line for this skit?
Yes.
Okay, I can't quote it, and I'm sure that the creators would love to correct me if I'm wrong about this, but I would say I'm like over 75% sure that the whole "a pretty flower for a pretty lady" is from Aladdin.
Really?
Because we have the whole bit where Jasmine's in the marketplace and and we have the guy who's like, "Would the pretty lady like a necklace? A pretty necklace for a pretty lady." I don't know. What do you think? What do you think? Look, maybe it's just because Aladdin is one of those movies that I just grew up on. It's just ingrained in my head. So every line of that sticks out. But just the way that they phrase it, like a pretty flower for a pretty lady. I don't know. What do you think? Is there any merit to that? I mean, I'm sure the creators would love to chime in on this. But
well, sure. I'm sure they'll hopefully correct us or like inform us in the comments.
I was right about the in and out thing with "this is the end." I was right about that.
You were, so I mean, you got a shot at it. But honestly, I have theories of where the whole genesis of the whole Pretty Flower gag came from. However, the delivery of it, you might be on to something there, because I could maybe buy like the whole emphasis on pretty flowers, pretty flower for the pretty lady. But I know where that gag comes from. I can speculate where the idea for this might have come from. But
okay.
So without further ado, we're going to start with I believe there's the 7th, at the very least, it's the 17th kind of sketch video they did. Whether it's the 17th video they've done. Period or not, it's for powers greater than I. That's for the folks at home to look into. Show your support, folks. Read.
We need a take robot to show it through the Just Giggle It archives.
Yes, we're gonna see if they can live up to their namesake. Just Giggle It.
All right. So we start with a flower.
Tiki, don't you want to show folks at home some?
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right. So, folks, I took the liberty of doing some screen shares from these skits. They might not be the best quality, but, they'll do. They'll do.
But anyway, just to hit something, because we did transition from it. Again, it's the process of just transitioning from it. Because we can hit it this time, because I think it's going to be in every video, if not a majority of these videos. The whole concept of Just Giggle It, like the gimmick and the symbol of it's like a Google search bar. Like, not even a Google, it's a search bar where it where it's Just Giggle It, and essentially they type in. The idea is like you have this the search engine of Just Giggle, basically all the funniest videos on the internet, where you type in the search bar what the episode's title is, and you're basically brought to like just any curiosity you have on the internet. Type in, okay, I want to just Pretty Flowers. What comes up, and you get this hilarious video that pops up. So that's the gimmick of Just Giggle. And it kind of sunk into me when I watched it here. I just never really kind of thought of it. Oh, you just type in the search bar, and that's what gets you the video. Basically, it's kind of like a robot. It's kind of Robot Chicken-esque in concept of Robot Chicken. You have the robot. The robotic chicken sat in front of the TV screens, and we're seeing all the ridiculous TV that he's watching, and that's what makes up the shorts in that show. So we kind of have a similar thing in concept here, and I thought it was kind of clever.
There's kind of like a ridiculous sort of meta narrative going on with that.
That's nice. I like it. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we start. Pretty Flowers off with Joshua Thomas, basically doing kind of a Latin lover type, selling roses to couples.
He starts. I love how he talks to himself, Dragon. That's one of the best parts of this performance. He's just like, a rose for me, a rose for you. ROSC.
So I love that we're going. So we have Josh Thomas. He's selling roses to the couples, and we're going to learn that this man takes his profession of the heart. He takes this profession of the heart very seriously. So let's see. So we have the initial. So here's the cleverness here. I'm going to cite kind of the cleverness and comedy. And folks, we're going to do the impossible here. And our Tiki and I's goal for a lot of this, because you might say, how can you really appreciate, how can you review something or like kind of discuss something comedic without just explaining the joke and just making it just like a boring, like we could just watch the thing. Why are you just explaining it? We're gonna show you the merit and what these fine folks at Just Giggle are doing, folks. We're gonna prove you naysayers wrong if they exist somewhere. We're gonna show you the genius in this comedy, not just like say this is what happens. We're gonna show you the pieces coming together.
Sure, Dragon. I'm not quite as confident and bombastic as you are, but we'll go with it.
Yeah. So what we do is we have this initial misdirect for the comedy where you think, okay, basically what we're going to see unfold in the beginning here. That's what I love about this short, and what really made me laugh about it is that you start with this poor rose salesman. You basically think the short's going to be like, it's like 4 minutes or so, like three minutes and change, and you think, okay, it's going to be this poor rose salesman getting shot down. Basically, it's an old school where I think the title comes from. Pretty Flowers it's an old school vaudevillian comedy routine, like we've seen with like something Lou Costello would do, or like Abbott gives him like something to sell, and like Lou's selling, everyone's like giving him like smart answers, like shooting him down, like not buying anything from him. Or more accurately, what it really looks like, kind of like Charlie Chaplin and like the blind girl selling roses. Something like that. So I think it's really the concept of this comes from. Of course, when we emphasize we're Pretty Flowers, why Pretty Flowers is the sell line of the episode, we're going to see it. So I love it. We're set up for like, okay, you've seen this thing 100 times before, you know how it's going to go out, and boy, does this subvert the big expectation, big expectations there.
So I like initially couples, they're being very polite about turning them down. They're all kind of like just late for a party or something. They're just like, oh, maybe next time.
And I love that our rose salesman, he's I love how he's again, we're getting an inkling of, we're going to see it to its max example later on, but just the rose salesman who, he's a romantic at heart, so he's like, please enjoy your pretty woman. It's just, it's like flower for your
pretty woman to himself badly.
Yeah, it's like it's even though that he's failed, he's like, oh well, they're in love. Isn't that grand?
Pretty.
And while he's singing that. And while he's singing that, he's doing a silly happy dance, and I thought it was just on the rewatch, like, oh my god, the little happy dance he does afterwards. It's funny.
All right, so the second couple drops by.
Then we have the next couple with
Dragon. It's kind of like the rule of threes. You know what I mean? They work really well in that access point.
Yes, with Mark Spica. Mark Spica, he's someone I'm going to note definitely in the Making a Murderer thing. He's kind of their bit player. He's kind of like a guy who's like kind of a man. He's a performer of 1,000 faces, let's say. He's always like a small role, and he has a bigger role in the next one we're going to talk about. But Mark Spick is just kind of he's a funny guy. I know he does a good Al Pacino impression, which I'll get into that later. So basically, he's just playing this really like kind of over the top. Again, we're kind of playing that vaudevillian comedy sense almost, where he's kind of over the top, and it's I don't know, it's like it's not a funny line, but just the way he says it is funny. Just where he asks, do you want the rose for the pretty woman? And he says, you want a rose, babe? So she says no, and he says, sorry, bro, no rose tonight.
And then we see him get a little bit more pushy. He's just like, oh, please, sir, I insist, a beautiful woman deserves a beautiful rose.
And again, so we have kind of a red. So again, basically, she turns it down again. Then I love that. Again, he's still being kind of uplifting about it, where he's saying, "Please," as he's like making a plea for them to buy the roses as they're walking away. All right, I understand completely. If I were you, I'd want to get into the sheets with her too.
So he's being understanding, but he's being a little bit more inappropriate about it. And like I said, folks, this is kind of like the genius of the rule of three setup we have going on with this baseball pitch of the punchline.
Exactly. So it's like the red herring of comedy right there, where you think, okay, he's getting a little bit, it's progressing a little bit more, and we're subverting that comedy with the institution that is the rule of three. Okay, the big one's coming. The big one's coming up right now. We can't have like the major. We can't hit the slam dunk. We can't hit the home run until the third couple shows up. It's a classic comedy rule. So either the third one or after the third one. That's how it goes. So then here we go. So I love this. So as he's like, he turns around, and from a distance, I love that we don't like get a good look at her yet. But from a distance, he kind of gives like almost like a dry heave, and he hides the flowers. So here's now for me,
I just love the inflictions that Joshua Thomas gives on this guy. He's just like, I am busy. I am busy. He says everything in like a sing-song type of voice.
But of course, the fact he's saying it out loud just makes it funny. But here's what's great. Now, take it with the whole I'm busy. And what I really appreciate about this is one of the Just Giglet signatures here. It's one of the Just Giglet standards of the realistic touches in comedy. I think that's what we're going to find in a lot of these, Tiki, especially the next one. They have like a realistic... it's all the little realistic touches where in real life we've all been there. It's almost like a Curb Your Enthusiasm rule of thumb where it's we've all done this at some point. We've all been in this situation where you have like a phone out and you're pretending to be busy or just like the illusion.
Yeah,
so that's what I'm saying. They're nailing those bits, and that's impressive. Like, yeah, we're doing like things that you would recognize, that people do in real life. Of course, he's doing it in over the top manner. I'm busy because he doesn't need to say that, but he is. So then the man and his wife, and all that's his wife, by the way, just to kind of emphasize how offensive this is to the guy. Man and his wife, played by the very, very talented and wonderful Piper Hinson.
Oh yeah.
And again, Piper Hinson is kind of pulling like it's like when you have a comedy player who's like kind of like a classic SNL kind of player in a way where she doesn't have to play it one way. We see some range from Piper Hinson here. Piper Hinson, she's in heavy makeup, let's say. Where she plays the wife who is kind of ugly as sin in an over the top way, and that's intentional. She's like this. They give her like this bad complexion. They give her like moles and this big old goofy hillbilly teeth.
It's like the teeth that really sells it.
That's the thing. It's like, wow, they're so again, it's not just like it's again. You could go. I love that there's a fine line that they walk here, and I think they do it perfectly.
Could be mean-spirited.
Exactly, could be mean-spirited, but it isn't because it's over the top.
Yeah, it's so over the top. I mean, in some ways, I got to admit, I could see women with image issues, like in certain circumstances, being a little bit offended by this. But you know what? It's so over the top that I think anyone with a good sense of humor about it is gonna like laugh and get the joke.
Right. Okay, so the couple approaches him, and then they're asking for roses. And he says, "Oh, no roses here," and she says, "I saw
no roses, only a guy who's busy."
So she sees she saw the roses behind his back, and basically saw him behind his back earlier. And I love this. And I heard you selling roses earlier. So they catch him in a lie. And again, this is like the great little touches of comedy where this guy's story does not check out at all, and we're calling him on it.
Well, you mean these roses? They are my roses. They're not for sale.
Keep walking, okay?
And that's the point where it's striking. That right there is the turning point.
Yes. So here's the thing. So she just wants to move on. Again, it's kind of a sensitive matter, and she just wants to move past it in the smart way. And she just wants to move on. Then Nick, her dashing husband, Nick defends his. I love that he's defending his position more than he's defending her honor. By the way, I don't know if you caught that. I just love that it's about the principle of it more than just like you insulted my wife. I love that's what sets him off more. Is that so? He tries to show off by again. It's a battle of wills over roses, folks. And I know how ridiculous that sounds, but my God, do they make it compelling and awesome? Or basically, he tries bribing our rose salesman with a $20 bill for $5 roses.
And that just disgusts our rose salesman, Dragon. He's not taking any of that.
So I love this. So he just slaps the hand after he puts the money in the pot. And here's the thing: it just had me rolling with laughter. So he slaps the hand, which is great. And then he takes the money out and he just tosses it on like the ultimate insult of your brother. I toss it to the ground. And Tiki, you have the line. My
roses are beautiful. I I will not have my roses be held by that thing
you call your wife. I just love that line. That's my favorite line of this whole short here. I just love that thing you call your wife. And Joshua Thomas, he has a masterful delivery here. And here's what sells me. And I think is what this skit I would argue does not work without what Joshua Thomas is doing here. So what Joshua Thomas is doing here in the Just Giggle fashion, what he's doing is he's selling the commitment and the stoicism, to the rose salesman here, where it's this very.
We live by.
It's to the rose cause. It's the classical. Sorry.
Oh, I just said we live by a code.
Exactly, he's sticking to the rose code here, and he's sticking to it's the core, it's the historical
for a pretty woman.
Exactly, and in Just Giggle fashion, what we're doing is we're taking a simple joke like that, and what we do is progressively, as this thing gets to this boiling point, is that we amp it up to 11, and we kind of go to a point that will either be dark or extremely absurd. In this case, it's extremely absurd, but I love that, again, it has that potential. Like, when we crank it up to 11, like, we break the handle off, it's going to go either really dark, and we're going to see it in some other shorts, they're going to go either really dark with the comedy, or they're going to go super absurd, and in this case, they go to that super absurd level. And again, what they're doing is what I love in comedy, Teague. I love in shows like Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I love it when you can be absurd, but also kind of earn it, where basically you can do, like Brooklyn Nine's a show where it's a cop show where it could be it could be The Office, or it could be like really silly, but we kind of have the skills to pay the bills in regards of, it's a really good cop show. These are really competent cops, but at the same time, they are hysterical. I laugh my head off at Terry Crews every episode. And we kind of do that here, where they sell you on, man, this guy's commitment. Like this is a man who I'm on the rose salesman's side. Believe it.
I kind of am too, and that's
because of his commitment.
Sketch.
That's the thing. Like, I'm on the rose salesman's side because what he's saying is kind of truly horrible. But again, at the same point, he's so impassioned. I kind of like, yeah, it is kind of an insult to the rose profession. It's a very simple principle. This man is kind of insulting him with this. So Nick's offended and he threatens violence, and then, let's see, you think, and he has this ridiculously absurd line. You think we sell roses on the street? We live by a code. And again, that's what at that point I'm saying, man, I'm on the vendor's side with this performance because it's like he's portraying it like he's being like he's being bribed himself by this man. Like he's like, you think I'm just like a cheap vendor on the street? This is my livelihood. That's kind of what he's saying. Like, yeah, this is very insulting for that rose vendor to be party to. A pretty flower for a pretty woman. There's the philosophy. And Tiki, what does he say?
Your wife should be holding a seashell filled with shit.
This thing on the rewatch, that cracked up more so than it did the first. First, I would just think, oh man, it's just ridiculous. And so I watch, oh my god, it's like that's what he's saying. That's what she should be holding.
It's ridiculous. It's just like it makes no sense.
He's literally saying it's like something comparable to how he feels that she looks, and it's like a seashell, a defiled seashell.
Pretty flower for a pretty woman.
And again, at this point, he's not just threatening violence. He wants the roses to prove his point. That's all he wants. And he's like, give me the rose, give me the flowers. Never. And then we have what I like to call the War of the Roses. Not the War of the Rosses, the War of the Roses. Set to pipe. I'm like Teague, I'm 90% sure is because I think she does all the singing on the channel, but I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure it's Piper Hinson doing the singing I Am Beautiful. Anyway. So what we see here is hilarious, and it's kind of funny just kind of looking at this now, where we are with Sign the Plug. You're Harley Quinn and Joker versus the Real World, episode 5, where we do a sequence where Piper Hinson is singing, and we show something kind of beautifully absurd and hysterical on screen.
Exactly. You can totally see the roots of that.
So we have it's perfect. It's perfectly framed here, and I think the framing might be attributed to, because I heard they got this guy on after episode 10, James Ramlow. James Ramlow is the DPs, and what his philosophy is when they work on this is he works fast, and basically his belief is if we're going to do this fast and of a good quality. It's kind of his philosophy. We're going to shoot fast, we're going to shoot effectively, and you're going to make it look good. So I think he achieved that well here. The composition of this shot is great. Girls in the middle holding the roses, or like holding like one of the remnants, like battle scar of the rose, like the beheaded rose. She's holding while these two guys off screen. I love it's off screen for the most part. Like there's hitting each other things off screen, but it's like to the slow mo, just like da-da, I am beautiful no matter what. That's going on. These two having a very impassioned, serious battle over this very silly discrepancy. And in the end, kind of essentially our post-credit gag essentially is after the two men battle and as the battle is commencing, our rose salesman tries. You want to take him, tell him what the post-credit thing is.
Yeah, the rose salesman tries to take the rose out of her hand, and then she gives his arm a big old bite with those big
like
old
it's an apple.
teeth.
Bites him like his arm's an apple.
God.
Oh boy, so yeah, that's pretty flowers.
I mean, I can totally see why it's a favorite of the creators because as we said, folks, as we were like really trying to illustrate, I feel like it does such a good job of just the basic fundamental levels of comedy. It's a very economic skit.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so Dragon, do you want to move on to the one that really oh god, folks. Okay, I'm not just saying this because we're kind of we're kind of friends with this channel. This is probably one of the best Pokemon parodies I've ever seen. And Pokemon parodies are kind of a genre in their own right, Dragon. I've seen a bunch of Pokemon parodies in my
The only real Pokemon parody that I've seen, the one I thought was really good, was that fan trailer. I think I've told you this before. I think I've shown you it if you haven't already seen it. It's a Pokélips Now, basically someone attempting a live action Pokemon movie, not this whole Ryan Reynolds like Detective Pikachu BS. I'm talking like real like. Like a real like a Pokemon like kind of set in like basically not a Nolan-esque Pokemon, basically a serious like crime drama with Pokemon. That's kind of what they were. It's kind of what they were doing. And
it's a Spielberg Pokemon. God damn it!
Oh my God! Yes,
right?
Yeah.
Has Dad never built in?
How did I never think of? Yes, we need that.
I don't have a dad.
Okay, anyway, so what we really go into here was this episode is entitled "Real Life Pokemon Adult Ash Ketchum number 35." So presumably this is the 35th Just Giggle It short, presumably. And what's cool about this is for our purposes here. This is the first spoof we're going to be talking about what they've done. So this is them kind of doing like a parody spoof of something.
Yeah, so, Pokemon, of course. I grew up with Pokemon, I was like, I was born in 1990, so when Pokemon hit in 99, I was like, Dragon, I was like the target, like you could literally just paint a target on my freaking chest of like, target demographic, me.
Shoot him in the Pokeball, it's right there. Yeah, I mean, for me, I grew up with the, I also, because Cartoon Network was kind of built into my DNA, so I caught the reruns on Cartoon Network, like I caught the reruns of some of my other favorites, Batman, Freakazoid. So again, Cartoon Network was my wheelhouse for a lot of, especially the anime years, where again, Dragon Ball and Pokemon, they kind of came in while Batman was kind of absent from my life for a while. Mm-hmm. So I was up to Pokemon until like I nailed it down to a point. I was invested in Pokemon. The episodes on TV. I tried the game once. The game for me stunk. I hated the game. I hate the not the Game Boy Advance game. I mean the card game. I couldn't stand the card game.
I like the card game, but that's a whole different argument.
I'm saying Yu-Gi-Oh cards to me was a far better, simpler card game than Pokemon was. But that's just my experience growing up. Right. So point is,
I like the card game because it's kind of like poker.
Well, anyway, Pokermon. Yeah. Anyway, no, but seriously though, so I think in terms of like where I really, basically when we had Tracy, do you remember Tracy? Like
yeah, Dragon. It's funny that you mentioned that because this is like you and I are like in sync with each other. Tracy was like the last ditch effort on my end too. I was like, I want to like this guy and I want to like this show, but this is just not doing it for me.
So it was Tracy and whatever movie that Tracy was in, because I don't think he was in Pokemon 2000.
He was in.
It was okay. So it was 2000. Okay, so that was the last time. I think I probably kind of jumped off of it with 2000. With probably after Pokemon 2000 is probably the last thing I saw of Pokemon, along with just that whatever season Tracy was in. So that's pretty much where I'd seen like maybe an episode or two of like the stuff when we had what was it, Max and his sister, Max and the anyway one of the reboots of it. And they did new animation, so it doesn't matter. The point is just that was really when I stopped consistently watching like the episodes. I love the idea of like, hey, you could see like all 150 Pokemon. You could kind of categorize in your head almost.
And that's exactly what I dropped off about it. Is like, okay, there's no way possible that we're gonna get like, because the thing about the promise of the original anime is that you could literally have standout character moments for every single one of the original 150 Pokemon in some way, shape, or form.
Certainly, and again, like the last thing, just the nostalgia for Pokemon before we get into this would be again the video games, particularly the Game Boy Advance games. Well, the Game Boy games, and honestly, I think we're all remembering the fond. For me, I get the fondest memories of the Game Boy games, and the Advance games is pretty much just adapted.
We would trade secrets about the Game Boy games around like it was freaking drugs. All right. Like the Pokemon craze was legit at my school.
It's like now these days, it's like, oh, it's on your phone. I'm like, hey, there's Pokemon everywhere. But back in the day, that was when that was real Pokemon. This is like manufactured, like corporate Pokemon we have now.
Again, I could do a whole rant on Pokemon Go, but I won't.
Okay, well, you see what I'm saying. The point is a lot of love for the Pokemon franchise in its simpler times for me. So,
of course.
All right, so let's just dive right into it because there is a lot of classic Pokemon in this. So starting right off the bat, speaking of classic Pokemon, we have a classic Pokemon recap. And our narrator, by the way, fun fact, we do see him in the episode, but he is also Mark Spyco, if I'm saying that right, Mark Spyco or Spicco.
Mm-hmm.
He's the waiter later on, but here he's the narrator, and it's kind of funny. So here's something we should maybe kind of consider saying now and again. So Mark Spyco, he had a famous quote about Joshua Thomas that kind of nails him. Joshua Thomas did something amazing. He calls it, he did an Al Pacino impression. He says, "Another Joshua Thomas grand slam."
God.
So whether Pacino impression notwithstanding, just when Joshua Thomas knocks out of the ballpark, he quite literally, another Joshua Thomas grand slam, another grand slam for Joshua Thomas, and we have another one of those right here. So. Anyway, so you have the classic Pokemon recap. We're basically checking with Ash after our fond nostalgia for Ash Ketchum back in the day. Tiki, where are we with Ash now?
Ash realizes he's in his mid-20s and hasn't settled down. Misty's left him because he wouldn't give up Pokemon, and then he went on many failed flirting attempts.
Okay, so real quick, I just want to hit this with Misty. So I love that. It's also one of the main screenshots they used for this episode. I just love the whole Misty like cut off like a cow and chicken parent, or like or like the peanuts, so like the adults from the peanuts. I love we kind of cut the head off of her. And here's the thing, I kind of knew in my guts, because again, you always factor Piper Hinson in almost every one of these episodes, if not in every episode. And I kind of had my gut feeling like, yeah, it has to be Piper Hinson. And I love it. I didn't even look at the credits, but when like the rewatch, I looked at the credits, like, oh hey, Misty's legs, credit to Piper Hinson. And on rewatch, I did notice if you freeze at a certain moment, you can see there's actually a mistake in this episode. You can see the blonde hair as she walks away.
I noticed that, Dragon. I noticed that.
So that's the sign that yes, it is Piper Hinson after all. I saw she's like the Hitchcock of it all. There she is. Okay. Dun, 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 dun. Anyway, so we see Misty has rejected Ash's proposal. I did like that he was going to propose to her, but it's.
You still haven't paid me back for my bike.
Oh my God, you're right. He never did do that, did he?
I actually think technically he did. I'd have to go back and look into it.
Right. Yeah, it's really bizarre. She followed him for a bike debt all those years, isn't it?
Yeah, it was anime. Anyways.
It was the 90s. Okay. So, yes, and of course, we see the failed flirting attempt while he's talking about Metapod.
Always uses Harden.
Of course, Metapod out of all the Pokemon this site. I'm just saying. It's like Ash was really stretching for that reference there. I mean, I do love the novelty of, again, playing the Pokemon games as the most useless attack, Harden. It's the most useless. I know it's like a defense, but, it's the most useless. Why do we need this? Come on,
Okay, to get into a brief Pokemon tangent, like, I believe a lot of Metapods, like, you can technically train them to do tackle and stuff like that.
Yeah, you can.
A lot of Metapods just have Harden, so they're...
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's
battle.
Plus, you can do, like, you buy the moves in the store and stuff, and you give it... ridiculous. Anyway, so, of course, that lands him a slap talking about his Metapod's abilities to Harden. And, let's see, so now he's got a Data Rush.
A moment to just address that Joshua Thomas is just freaking spot on as Ash.
He is.
Like, he has that raspy thing going on.
Yeah, he's got the rasp down and everything.
Oh my god.
Okay, let's see. So basically, where we leave off with our recap is okay. Now he's got a date at a restaurant, and we basically have the episodes. And this is the thing that got me most excited with when the first time I watched this thing back when the Pokey Dating Master. Basically, we have like the age old kind of Pokemon title cards where they always do that wipe that reveals like, hey, here's the episode. It's like they use the same background in the animation. They like a wipe or something to reveal, and they all say it in unison. Pokey Dating Master.
Dating Master.
Just they nailed that so well. That's the thing you got to appreciate about the spoof. They got their Pokemon right.
Of course, they got the who's that Pokemon at the middle.
Oh, don't jump the gun.
all right.
So Ash is so let's see, Ash right at the top of this.
Oh, I can't stand that lousy Gary. He's already married. He's got a kid on the way. I bet he thinks his kid is going to be a better Pokemon trainer than my kid.
Just taking the Gary rants, and the Gary rants is always like it's a gold standard in Pokemon, like Ash versus Gary, and it's that ridiculousness. And of course, Gary was just very unnecessarily antagonistic in that because he was kind of he was an okay guy, but he was really a prick in the beginning, and they were just kind of stuck with that, and they're kind of pigeonholed into that. Just always holding that grudge against Gary because he's Oak's grandson or nephew or something. Grandson, right? Yes. Lucky Gary. Anyway. So, our mystery date arrives. It's Nicole. Yeah. So Nicole, and the idea is she met Ash online. So it's you also got, I think it's like a vague reference, like just kind of like the Pokemon gaming and such. I don't know. It's just like it feels like kind of like a stretch from like the game to. I'm just saying after seeing Ready Player One, maybe that was on my mind. Maybe I was just inferring that. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, the point is, so they met online. So basically, this is kind of a blind date. It's kind of like it's a like they're familiar with each other now they're meeting in real life, so anything can happen. So Ash has a great line. Says, "Man, dating is evolving." So I love this. This is clever. I love that Ash is in. This is kind of the comedy, kind of our comedy button to hit here, and I love where we subvert that in the episode. There's always like a subversion of some kind in each of these videos. Here's the subversion of this video where. So it's really clever that Ash has like almost like a nervous tick. It's like one of those like it's like a kind of a classic sitcom, like an Odd Couple, or like a bad date in the making on Seinfeld. Where, you have like something that's going to torpedo the date or torpedo things, where usually your character has an affect or has like a nervous tick of some kind. In this case, he can't stop working Pokemon into the conversation left and right. So what he's doing, and this is clever, Ash is trying to downplay his Pokemon obsession. What he's doing is he's working it into small talk. So he basically is like kind of transforming into something that actually sounds like small talk.
Oh yeah, I love Poke. And then
you're an animal lover.
He stops himself, and then we get on to we get into a ridiculous fantasy head trip sequence.
With who, Tiki?
With Brock.
Good old Brian. I love they got the squinty eyes and everything down with Brock. It just looks flawless. And again, so Brock, here's the thing, Tiki. Brock is the logical go-to for this because Brock was always the failed ladies' man.
Of course.
On Pokemon, the very girl-obsessed Brock warns, Ash, don't talk about Pokemon. Nurse Joy.
Not a kid anymore. Don't say the words.
Nurse Joy. For me, I would take it just for my money. I was kind of with Officer Jenny, but Nurse Joy, whatever.
Oh, I sign off on that. I'm a Jenny guy.
Yeah, you can't miss either one. I'm just saying there are 100 million Nurse Joys. There's like 99 Officer Jennys, so like. Okay, so basically he corrects himself, and I gotta love it's like a random correction too. It's not answering the animal lover question like right off the bat, saying poker.
No, he's saying poker, man.
I have a gambling problem. So let's see. So, and then it says, then he works in the animal things. It says, it's my dream to be the best animal trainer alive. And And Nicole likes the ambition. And again, this is where it's really selling me here, because again, I thought like, okay, they're gonna again. Just Giggle always has in the beginning when I started watching like the videos outside, Joker and Harley Quinn. I was thinking, okay, these are probably just gonna be like funny things. We're probably gonna go in the conventional direction on a lot of these. Again, not an insult to Just Giggle. From way back in the earnest days, it was like, oh, I have no idea how these are gonna go. But there's always that inkling of like, okay, well, it'll be fun. There's kind of doing stuff while like they maybe hope to do bigger things like like a whole like web series or something down the line. And no, again, they're working on that subversion. It's not going the way you think it's going to go. So Nicole, she likes the ambition. She's buying it. She's not like instantly. It's not like the obvious comedy of like, oh boy, this guy's kind of weird. What have I gotten myself into? It's not doing that. I respect that, Tiki. I really do.
Mm-hmm. So, Dragon, Ash has a line here that it's like the most mundane sentence ever, but I just love how Joshua Thomas delivers it.
So, yeah, Ash.
I heard you work in retail. How is that? I just love that. How is that?
So essentially, she says, it's to pay the bill so she can go out on her own, and then Tiki hit him with the line.
Oh my god! So she said she's finally moved out of her house, and then he's saying, "I left my house when I was 10."
So let's address this real quick. Here's the thing: it's kind of an anime thing. Even when you look at something like Dragon Ball with Bulma and everything, there's always like a bizarre age discrepancy in anime. It's kind of like it's like the old Disney princess thing, where you had like the princesses. You always had like a built-in age in your mind where you realize, oh my god, they're far younger. It's scary young.
Exactly.
Yeah, like Snow White,
like 10.
Yeah, in this case, Ash's. Here's the thing: did you ever read Ash's 10, or did you or?
I mean, in the anime, in the very first episode, he says he's 10 years old. So, yeah,
I know, it's weird, because it is there. It is stated. I don't know. After all these years, I always thought he's like 15 or something.
Again, that's kind of like an anime discrepancy of like how they draw them versus how they actually look,
Yeah.
But,
anyway, so I like that we're kind of making fun of that here. So it's a smart kind of satire in that regard. So she's like, oh my God, Jesus Christ, wow. What parents would allow that? Would allow that in Tiki? What parents would allow that?
I don't have a dad.
I don't have a dad.
I like how he says it like almost proudly.
It's the thing, because I just love that we're building it into all the declarative happy moments of like Ash being overconfident in the show. Basically, it's like how in the game we have all these statements ending in exclamation points of like, egad, it's just it's like super happy or declarative. And he does gain some sympathy, and I love this. I love we have a good. I love the nuanced balance that we get here. And again, it's like you don't get a lot in comedy. Usually, it's like we're just hitting the mark, but we're hitting like a sophistication within the comedy with like some little subtextual things like this, where he gains sympathy, he gains genuine sympathy from it. With that, usually like putting a hand on the pokey gloved Ash. And at the same time, though, again, in garnering sympathy, she does elicit a little hint of discomfort. Like, okay, this conversation, like, it's kind of a random thing to blurt out. I'm sorry for you, but don't really know where to go from here. Mm-hmm. So then they realize. So then that kind of expands to, oh boy, where's that waiter with our water?
Water? Leave it to me.
So again, this is where I'm thinking it's going to go in that conventional direction of, okay, so we've done some clever stuff. Now we're going to get to that point where it's the date's going to be torpedoed completely, but basically under the table is one. I mean, let's face the practical realities here, folks. We can't afford Pokemon. It's a well-made short answer. We can't afford
really good effective sound effects though.
That is true. I think the audio in this is fantastic. What we're doing. I think it does make up for it. So basically, Squirtle off screen is you fill in the glass with water, and then she's asking the very logical question. Any right-minded young woman out there should ask this question. If there's no water and the waiter's not around, you got to ask where that water came from. Little missies out there, you better ask where that water came from.
Oh, it came from my friend Squirt.
Bottle. My friend's squirt bottle.
Because remember when you said that they haven't brought us the water yet, and you wanted water? Well, that's water.
And I love like he's wiping the sweat or like the excess water from his face. So it's he gives like the laugh.
Delivers the most glorious Ash Ketchum laugh I have ever heard. Dragon.
Now, I love with the laugh, Tiki, and this is the thing that sells it for me. The laugh is good, and he does deliver it, very well. But while he's doing that, I love he's doing the anime thing where you have
Oh,
like he's putting the hand behind the head, like "oh
oh my
shucks,"
god.
basically
Yeah,
the "oh shucks," like aren't we so happy position.
yeah.
And again, I love how we have the music, and then we take the music, like the music kind of comes in and out of like the classic Pokemon music.
Oh, the music, that's another good point that we should bring up. It's also like they use it sparingly, but they use it really well when we have classic Pokemon themes.
And I'm going to say this: I think the music plays into what I think, for me at least, for my enjoyment of it, I think is the most pivotal, one of the most pivotal moments of the whole thing.
All right.
We'll get to. We're building to that. So then, Tiki, tell us what the commercial break's like.
Who's that Pokemon?
So very clearly,
very obvious silhouette of Pikachu.
Okay, so then we come back with then remember all the time again watching the show on TV, back when it's like it always did this during the commercial break, and you come back and reveals who the Pokemon is. In this case, it's
Onix,
and of course just completely different. Basically, it's the Pikachu silhouette. There's like
Onix could not be more different in form silhouette wise to Pikachu.
And like a quick edit, just basically changes it to like the reveal of like the very last second of the reveal. It's Onix. It's like what?
I just love the Onix like roar sound effect.
By the way, major props to Onix. Always a cool Pokemon. My book.
Onix was actually one of my personal favorites as a kid. I always loved his design.
Onix and Gyarados had really good designs.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway. Okay, so we're back from commercial, and we have food. So I like that we got something accomplished after that commercial break. The food is here because the waiters seem relatively absent. Wonder why that is. So the waiter brings a...
filming in what's obviously a house.
No, where's your sense of whimsy, Tiki? Come on. Come on. Anyway, they're all on break.
I had to mention it at least once, guys.
They're all on coffee breaks. Come on. We saw that one waiter. Of course, it's a restaurant. Anyway, so Nicole has brought a burger, and her burger is medium. It's medium rare. It's like something rare, and I don't know. I guess it's medium rare. It has to be. Anyways, the point, she gets a burger that is not well done, like she asked for. So Ash is on it. He aims to please. And honestly, for the size, that's the thing. You heard Charmander, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing, because it's either Charmeleon or Charmander, I heard, and it has to be the smaller one, because it can't be Charizard, because he's bigger than the whole...
Could you imagine him trying to fit Charizard under that table?
That's what I'm saying. So it has to be, like, one of the other early forms.
Sure it's Charmander.
I want it to be Charmander, but part of me heard, like, Charmeleon, but I'll go with you. I like that one better, so it's just... Anyway, use that. And his excuse is, flamethrower. What do you think you are, Ash? McRory? You're not Heatwave. Obscure Legends of Tomorrow and Flash reference for those taking point. Anyway, so he just writes off as a flamethrower, which again doesn't arise any suspicion, but okay.
Right. No, in fact, she's impressed. She's like, oh man, this guy's like multi-talented. What can't you do?
I don't know what is it. Look, I'm just gonna go and like snake eating the tail here, but look at where we are on Harley Quinn and the Joker versus the real world, where we have a beautifully dim in not a negative sense, dim in like she's kind of like sheltered character like Addison, who again is just like she's really nice and impressed by her roommates, where we kind of have that here like in its early stages with Nicole. We might not get an Addison like we have today without kind of these early stages like this.
Sure.
Kind of a little retroactive note to hit there. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so after that, what do we... Oh, yes. So, he asked if, so things seem to be going well with that. So he's asking, hey, do you think maybe I could see you again sometime? And she says yes. And then with the music and with this great fourth wall break. Like,
what you're talking about with the use of the music.
Yeah. Well, this isn't the big moment I'm building up here. We're getting there. It's at the very end. So he says, yes, I caught her. And I love that we have like this wide shot, so we're showing her looking around. So it's a great like fourth wall moment of like, it's like, am I on like To Catch a Predator or something? What's going on here? Like, who says that? And again, she's not being like, again, he's doing like the arm thing, laughing it off, and with that anime. And again, as things are going well, it's like, hey, I cleared the level. As things are going well, again, another Joker Harley thing with the angry ex-boyfriend.
Oh, this is totally a Joker Harley thing.
It's Frank, but he's named Chad. Different actor, so obviously it's not Frank. But anyway, so Chad enters. Chad. He enters with, and it sounds like it's one of two themes, Tig. It's either the wild Pokemon theme, the whole da-da-da-da, when you're in the game, and it's like you're walking through the woods, and like a wild disappeared, or it's the Team Rocket theme. It's one of those two themes from the Pokemon game.
It's funny. I actually thought it was the battle theme, but I think out of the two that you mentioned, I would go with the wild Pokemon theme.
Right. Well, I mean, again, it could be the. I think I might be thinking the Team Rocket thing as the battle theme, but whatever. So it's one of those. It's a theme for the game. So, he wanted to. I love the ridiculous. I like that there's a kind of a smart, like, twinge of social commentary here, where the boyfriend, it's kind of like a satirical kind of thing to point out here. Where he's not. We don't know that he's abusive. We just know he's kind of a loud, angry guy. So I'm just assuming that he wants. Hey, I want to work things out. Let's go. He's trying to force the girl out of her date. So obviously, this guy who wants to talk things out is really doing a horrible job at it.
Mm-hmm.
So that said, I'm just saying it seems like you're really kind of an oxymoron of like, hey, I'm a sensitive guy. Get out of your date now.
So Joshua Thomas, he stands up and he delivers another great Ash Ketchum line dragon. He's like, He's like, she said you should leave, Chad.
Yeah.
I love the enunciation on Chad.
So Chad insults. I love the insults the hat. It's like, oh man, this guy really is a bad dude. He's insulting the hat. We all love.
When he insults the hat, the music instantly cuts, and we see him like shove Joshua Thomas down.
Yeah, and then we have our narrator / and another fourth wall. Okay, basically the voice of the narrator is the actor who plays Spyco. It's Mark Spyco, and he's the waiter, and he's like on the phone, like placing an order.
Down and out.
What
you say? Will we be dining out?
And it's funny. I guess addressing the absurdity. And again, folks, I'm just saying just for the novelty of it all. Again, something we're kind of doing now on episode 5, which people should check out, of Harley Quinn and the Joker versus the Real World. We're doing like the whole, like, our characters, like this absurd thing we're showing here is kind of affecting the world around it, where, we have the kind of a fourth wall joke of like, okay, what, like, hey, is this guy part of it all? Or is like, no, it's like, hey, is it the narrator in the show itself, or no? It's just that we're mishearing that. So it's kind of like, well, like, wait, what just happened? It's like, again, it's the absurdity in the real world, addressing that as in the real world, I guess. Mm-hmm. So, of course, I love it. Again, I love we're taking so many shots at the boyfriend here, where he's saying, "Come on, we're going back to my mom's place." So then here's the bit for me right here. This is where it all comes out. This is where I think the whole. This is where I'm super impressed with this short entirely. The rest of it, again, this is the big moment where I had all my money, essentially. It's like, yes, take my money. Where Ash heroically, he gets up to defend Nicole's honor here. And he says, she said no. Who is this guy? And then here we go with the epic Pokemon theme. And here, this ending right here, Tiki, this is my favorite part. Because what it does is it shows what this short, the spoof got right. Where we have the epic Pokemon theme playing. Dun, dun, dun. It's like the most triumphant it could get. And again, we're not taking any shots at Ash. We're not taking any like shots at Pokemon. We're just owning up to the, like, we're in it now. We're loved. For anyone who's loved Pokemon or hasn't experienced Pokemon, it's like a moment you dream to see if you had Pokemon back for a day. Where he says, I'm Ash Ketchum. Well, I guess just says Ash. I'm Ash from Pallet Town.
No, he says his full name.
I'm Ash Ketchum from Pallet Town. And I'm going to be the best boyfriend that Cole ever had. And you see how delighted she is. And it says, get your hand off her and get out. And she's so impressed and so lovely. It's like your inner Pokemon fan is like, jumping, like pumping your fist in there. Yes, so it's so heroic and so nice. He says, and here's the bit where the music and everything builds to the crescendo. He says, oh yeah, or else what? And again, knowing what we know about Ash Ketchum, he's been skirting around with this girl. I'm crossing my fingers for like an optimistic outcome for us. I still hope the girl's on his side after all this.
I totally think she is in my own head canon for this.
Yeah, Exactly. So what happens is we take the moment where he turns the hat around. He turns the hat around while the music's blazing. It's at the crescendo, and we see and Tika, they got this. So it's such a simple effect, but it's something that again we've seen so many times. And obviously they can't do the shrinking effect, but who cares? It's the fact that the Pokeball was on his belt like all the other like 6 or 7 were. And then off screen, we cut to the Just Giggle logo, and of course, off screen, we hear Pikachu. It's a little nitpick, as much as I'm praising this again. Pikachu has never been in the Pokeball, and if it was any other character, I could let it slide. But Ash's true. Pikachu never went in the Pokeball. It's the only nitpick I have with this whole thing. But Dragon, the point is,
random side tangent. Have you heard that the newest Pokemon movie has Pikachu talk, like Ash's Pikachu?
I'm sorry, what?
The newest Pokemon movie has Ash have a conversation with Pikachu.
Let me guess, is he voiced by Ryan Reynolds?
No, God no.
It's ridiculous.
But I can tell you what Pikachu says. Do you want to know what Pikachu says?
A little afraid, but go ahead.
Okay, so Ash is basically Ash is asking Pikachu why he never goes in the Pokeball. God, it's so bad. Pikachu is like, because I never want to be away from you. I love you, Ash.
Here's the thing. That's cute yet disturbing at the same time. Pikachu should never say that.
Look it up, Dragon. Here's the thing. There's actually video on YouTube of theaters full of people reacting angrily towards it.
Really? Oh my God! I gotta look into that.
About it.
Oh my God, I'm gonna look into that. My God, that's awesome. People like the big the shoots. So basically, it's the equivalent we have to back then, where Tom Cat, from Tom and Jerry, where he spoke in the Tom and Jerry movie. It's kind of the equivalent we have, but even more iconic than that.
Oh, exactly. It's
like the moment where people's childhoods. It's like the violation of childhood. It's like there's some golden rules you don't violate. But anyway, so again.
Do we hear Pikachu talk, but we also contextualize Pikachu and Ash's entire relationship in this creepy, pseudo-sexual kind of way.
Okay, I wouldn't go pseudo-sexual, but I would say it's we don't need, having that said just takes away from the unspoken bond. It's such a violation of what we all know.
Exactly.
Regardless, so again, getting back on point for endings, what I'm saying is, look, even with that little Pikachu nitpick aside, I'm just saying, Tika, they got it so right with that ending. It's such a triumphant, amazing ending, and it's all the pieces they've been kind of flirting around in the comedy, it all comes to a head, and it's that's what you want in a truly good spoof, where again kind of that Brooklyn Nine-Nine effect. You have you can be funny, you can take your shots at it, you can as long as you get it right. As long as you get it right, and as long as you impress and you fundamentally get what we're spoofing down right, you can get away with anything.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, after the post credits, we have Joshua Thomas as Ash Ketchum reminding us, "Remember to catch 'em all." So yeah.
Right, and I'll have to come up with something else for the stinger of this episode because we've already used it so much. But I love how the stinger of the Pokemon episode is just, "I don't have a dad." Good edit, Dragon.
I can imagine the takes of them just losing their minds at that, and how hilarious that sounded. Well, I guess we should get final thoughts on Pretty Flowers, then this, and then.
I mean, honestly, I kind of already gave my final thoughts on Pretty Flowers.
Oh.
When we talked about Pretty Flowers, I kind of summed it all up.
Huh. All right.
I mean, if you want to say a last word on it, go ahead.
I'd like to. So basically, let's kind of go over what we learned this evening.
All right. Well, so, basically, to recap what I said about Pretty Flowers, I just think it's a very economic short. It just uses the rules of comedy. It uses them well, but it also subverts the rules. It's very professional in the way that it sets up and pays off jokes. It's like I said, Dragon, the analogy that we came up with about the baseball pitch, I feel like is very accurate for that short.
Yeah. So, Joshua Thomas in Pretty Flowers, I think Thomas definitely proved his merits in his commitment to the bit. And I think it's something you really want in comedy. A guy who's going to commit fully to. commit fully to kind of the fabrication. So basically, people buy into the reality, and like those little touches, they buy into the reality, and they're swept into it. And again, you can go nuts with them. It's almost like the it's almost like the Naked Gun effect. It's almost like the Naked Gun effect, which is a movie. The first Naked Gun has always been the best. I mean, the trilogy's fine, but the first movie's the best, and they always have that. You know, it's the Zucker brothers flair of you have a serious character, you have Frank Drebin, you have Leslie Nielsen playing a deadpan Frank Drebin. You can do all these absurd things, but you buy into it, and you buy legitimacy. Like, okay, well, he's giving a very serious performance, so I'm buying into it. I'm invested. I want him to succeed. I'm also laughing at all this hysterical stuff he's completely oblivious to, because again, he's so committed, and that's kind of, I think, what Joshua Thomas is kind of bringing to the fray in that, and in a lot of these. Mm-hmm. And again, progressively, we keep cranking up the absurdity and the comedy and that, and the kind of. And honestly, what something to kind of read into a lot of these, I don't know so much with the Pokemon short, but with Pretty Flowers, most definitely. Pretty Flowers, last analogy I have for it is it kind of reads like humor the Joker himself would love.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Like I said, it's just a very well-timed punchline.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, like, just something so simple and then kind of getting so kind of violent over the top, and so kind of, again, not that it's mean-spirited, but in the Joker's eyes, like, he would love, like, insult, like he says horrible things to Nick's wife, and that, and it's like, yeah, that's something Joker would love to do, and he would find hysterical. So again, it feels like comedy, like someone like the Joker would love this kind of absurdity cranked up to that unbelievable level that somehow balances out and works. So I guess getting to the real life Pokemon of it all, put it simply, it's an example of a spoof done right and done with respect. It's kind of that, as I said, Brooklyn Nine-Nine also applies to kind of like a Seth MacFarlane principle of getting the element, like early Seth MacFarlane, getting the Seth MacFarlane of it all, getting the elements right and faithful, so you can get away with anything. So you can get away with. Like, if you do a Western, you make sure the Western looks like 100% faithful to what you're doing. You want to do, like, a detective comedy, you got to be in the 40s. You got to get all the little details right, so you can, like, kind of make that change that makes things funny, makes things hilarious. You got to get all, you got to earn that. You got to earn it. So I think we did that with Pokemon spoof.
Yeah, I mean, just as a connoisseur of Pokemon, as someone who still loves Pokemon to this day, old school Pokemon, I should say. Like, I could replay those Game Boy games a million times, Dragon. Like, contrary to what you say, I still have the Game Boy version of the trading card game on my 3DS, and I play that all the time on my off time. But I just they just all the candor of Ash Ketchum, it's just an alarmingly accurate portrayal by Joshua Thomas. It's just like, that's what really sells me on it. Just he's able to just completely commit to all the cadence of the voice, all the mannerisms and the animation. And yeah, like you said, it's a spoof that's done with a lot of respect, a lot of homage, and just a little bit of biting humor to it. So it's perfect. Perfect. All right.
Yes.
Okay, folks. So lastly, to round it out, by all means, including the good folks at Just Giggle It themselves, and anyone else watching, please suggest in the comments other skits for us to do, because if this video goes over well, we're hoping to make this a weekly thing where we dive into the archives of Just Giggle It, because I feel like there's some really good conversations to be mined from this. Some really good, as you said, Dragon, some studies of comedy, if you will.
Yeah.
All right. And in the meantime, folks, just remember, dating is evolving.